Welcome to the Global BIM Summit pre-event series. My name is Alana Gluck, and I am Policy and Public Affairs Manager at the Center for Digital Built Britain. I'm delighted to be your host for today's webinar, which has been made possible by the UK's Construction Innovation Hub and the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. Today's webinar will be held in English and Spanish. You should see at the bottom of your screen the interpretation option to select your language preference. Building information modeling, known by the acronym BIM, is at the heart of the digitalization of the global construction sector. Governments across the world are transforming the way infrastructure is designed, built, operated, and integrated by implementing BIM to improve social, economic, and environmental outcomes for people and places. Today is the second in a series of 4 webinars in which we will hear from public sector and multilateral representatives leading BIM initiatives across the world. We will learn about the national policies, programs, and people who are at the heart of driving digital transformation in the built environment in their countries and organizations. The 4 webinars of the pre-event series will provide the background and context for the international dialogue taking place on the 17th of March at the Global BIM Summit, and we do hope that you will join us then. And now, if speakers can kindly turn their cameras on, I'm pleased to introduce you to today's speakers. Representing Singapore is Tai Fat Chang, Managing Director at the Built Environment and Innovation Institute of the Building and Construction Authority. Representing the EU Bim Task Group is Suel Subra, Chair of the Task Group. And representing the Republic of Argentina is Cecilia Benjardino, Director of Monitoring and Control of Public Investment Projects at the Ministry of Public Works of Argentina. Speakers, thank you very much. If you don't mind turning your cameras off. After we hear from our 3 speakers, we'll have a discussion session. And now I'm pleased to hand it over to Tai Fat Chang.
Good day, everyone. My name is Tai Fat from Singapore. I work in a public agency that is responsible for building control and industry development. And my key role is overseeing research and innovations in the built environment sector. Today at this Global BIM Summit, I'll be sharing on Integrated Digital Delivery, or IDD for short. This is one of the key initiatives that we roll out in Singapore to leverage on digitalization to transform the way we build. The outline of my presentation will cover 3 parts. First, I will share on the motivation for digitalization. Second, I will share about integrated digital delivery. And then third, I will talk about the implementation approach, sharing on the strategies and action plan. Let me start with the motivation for digitalization. This slide shows the global productivity growth trends. Over the last few decades, the construction sector is lagging behind others in terms of productivity growth. This next slide shows the correlation between productivity growth on the x-axis and the digitalization index on the y-axis. From this figure, we can clearly see that low digitalization will lead to low productivity. In 2017, in Singapore, we launched the Construction Industry Transformation Map to address 3 global trends, namely the digital revolution, rapid urbanization, and climate change. We focus on these 3 key areas that will help transform the built environment sector. The first area is design for manufacturing and assembly. The second area is on green buildings. And the third area is on integrated digital delivery. which is the trust to drive digitalization. As we have seen from my earlier two graphs, this is a key enabler to drive productivity. Let me now share on the integrated digital delivery trust. I would first like to share on our digitalization journey. We started with a BIM roadmap in 2010 to drive wide adoption of BIM in the industry. And one of the things we put in place is to make it mandatory for projects above a certain size to submit BIM models for regulatory approval from 2013 onwards. In 2015, we developed the VDC roadmap of virtual and design construction to focus on getting people to work in a collaborative manner using big room concept and integrated concurrent engineering methodology to facilitate coordination and discussion. And in 2017, we developed the integrated digital delivery plan. So what is integrated digital delivery? The term has three key parts. First is integrated, where we are looking at the process and want to achieve better integration across the whole value chain. Second is on digital, basically leveraging on digital technology, going beyond the use of BIM, and also looking at the use of AI and data analytics. Third is on delivery, where the end product is not just a physical building, but digital information and digital assets for better operations and maintenance. And we break down IDD into four key stages. First is on digital design, where we look at things to enable coordinated design and also the use of computational tools. Second is on digital fabrication, where we focus on integration of BIM with offsite production. Third is on digital construction, where we look at delivery and installation of offsite components on site and the use of smart tools for inspection and monitoring. And fourth is digital asset delivery and management, where we focus on assets management to enable better operations and maintenance. These figures shows the IDD scenario that we envisage when we tie in the four stages together. And underpinning the various components across the whole value chain would be the use of digital collaboration platform and common data environment standards. If IDD is executed well in a project, we will see benefits of time, cost, profit, safety, and quality as key outcomes. Now, I will move on to share on the implementation plan. We formulated 6 broad IDD strategies to support the implementation. First is about strengthening IDD capabilities. Second is about widening adoption through public and private sector clients. Third is on nurturing research and innovation solutions. And fourth is on developing collaborative procurement approaches. And fifth is on identifying and encouraging adoption of vertical applications. And sixth is on developing and promoting collaborative platforms and common standards. From the 6 broad strategies, we came up with 3 action plans. First is to kickstart demonstration projects. Second is on developing the ecosystem, solutions, and standards to support IDD. Third is how to ramp up competency level. To kickstart demonstration projects, one of the things we developed is the Idt Project Framework. Under this framework, we set the KPIs, establish the key processes, the key information, and the solutions to execute an IDD project. Through this framework, we develop an implementation guide for firms to use. The whole intent is to provide a friendly and simple guide to enable firms to understand the key steps to manage an IDD project well. Next is on the development of ecosystems and platforms. One of the initiatives that we did was to issue a grant call for the development of a construction digital platform. The key requirements are a cloud-based platform to enable collaboration and must be able to support third-party solution providers through open API interfaces. Another initiative that we are working on is to gather the various government agencies together to work on a common data environment, data standards. The intent is to start with public sector taking the lead and eventually to introduce it as a standard for the whole industry in Singapore. As part of setting up the ecosystem to support implementation, we also roll out the Construction and Facilities Management Industry Plan. Under this plan, we will pre-approve digital solutions. Once the solutions have been pre-approved, firms that wish to procure them can enjoy up to 70% incentive grant to cover the costs. The third action plan, which I think is one of the most important critical success factors, is to build up competency to support digitalization. We identify key digital skill sets that are needed in the industry. Then we map out into a competency map over the whole value chain and look at core competency areas and those that are more role-based specific. From these mappings, we will then develop certification programs and specialized courses to cater for the industry needs. In summary, I have shared with you the broad framework of integrated digital delivery, the broad strategies and action plan we have put in place to implement it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Taifat. It's particularly interesting to hear about the interface between BIM methodology and standards and the use of advanced technologies such as AI and machine learning in Singapore's IDD platform. So thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Suhail Subra, Chair of the EU BIM Task Group, about regional collaboration to further the BIM policy agenda in the European Union. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. I'm Suhail Subra, Chair of the EU BIM Task Group, and this is an update on the work of this group. The group was created in 2014 and is composed of public bodies from 27 European countries and aims to bring together national efforts into common and aligned European approach to develop a world-class digital construction sector. So what does this group do? It shares best practice experience, identify common goals, and exchange knowledge on how to successfully implement BIM based on open standards. It also delivers practical guidance to public procurers and policymakers with a clear set of requirements in order to optimize the life cycle of public built assets. And it bridges the gap between the demand side on one hand and the supply side on the other hand, in order to put in place contributions coming from enablers, including innovation and standardization bodies. So as I said, 27 countries are members of this group, along with the European Commission as a sponsor. The group is composed of decision makers, public procurers, and government representatives, both from the buildings and infrastructure sides. You have here the list of the participating countries. The governance of the group is the following. We have a chair, 2 deputy chairs, a steering committee, general assembly, and working groups working on specific topics, and also an advisory board. We also have formalized links with other similar entities. The group defined its strategic and operational roadmap composed of 5 key objectives and 19 activities. So the first objective is to ensure the best value for public money by providing a clear indication on the benefits of BIM for public authorities. For that, we have 3 actions: a cost-benefit analysis. This is an ongoing study, and I will get back to it later on. We also have an ongoing action about case studies and pilot projects, and another one about methodology for measuring the use of BIM. The second key objective aims to provide reliable information and guidelines to enhance the process of public procurement and to improve its transparency and outcomes. We have 4 actions here: guidelines for public procurement, advice to the European Commission on public procurement directives and the use of BIM, the development of a website and interactive handbook, and an annual public client innovation reward. The third objective is about increasing the competitiveness and productivity of the European single market by ensuring harmonized approach to standardization, with actions about liaison with international fellow organizations, the support of open BIM standards development, the support of a common classification system with collaboration between Nordic countries and Eastern Europe, and around the CCI initiative. And the fourth objective is about enabling knowledge transfer and exchange of best practices between the members of the EU BIM Task Group. And finally, the fifth objective is about supporting member states for the development of a unified long-term strategy for BIM, smart cities and regions, with a special focus on the development of a unified and open standards compliant digital platform. Let me now focus on some of these actions. The A1 action is about cost-benefit analysis for BIM. As a reminder, there are around 250,000 public procurement entities in the EU that have to procure, maintain, and operate buildings, hospitals, schools, roads and bridges, and so on. And this is done for their regions, for their municipalities or central governments. So we consider that so far, it is not simple to provide clear evidence on the cost and benefits of BIM, especially for the operational level, including the federal, regional, and local authorities for public procurement. So the aim is to develop a clear, comprehensive methodology and calculation tool for measuring the benefits of BIM and quantify cost and benefits as much as possible. This will be then tested through various case studies across EU member states, and the results will be available in May 2021. Action C3 is about a common classification system. Obviously, we need such a common language to describe the built environment and better facilitate and automate the exchange of machine-readable data. We consider that this should be based on open and international standards. It should cover the whole built environment, be free for end users, and support lifecycle asset management and cost calculation. The collaboration between Nordic countries and Eastern Europe on this topic is done within the CCI non-profit organization. Finally, Action E1 aims to support the creation of a common digital platform for the built environment. The platform should be able to be open to public data and public services. The activity on this topic was done within the EU-funded DigiPlace project. It delivered a reference architecture framework for this unified digital platform for the construction sector based on shared consensus along stakeholders. Thank you for your attention. Please visit our website and follow us on social networks for more detailed information. Thank you.
Thank you, Suel. The BIM cost-benefit analysis project sounds fascinating, and I know the resulting report will be of interest to European policymakers as well as those in countries around the world. Next, we'll hear from Cecilia Benjardina of the Ministry of Public Works in Argentina. Thank you.
Hola a todos, soy Cecilia Benjardino, represento al Ministerio de Obras Públicas de la República Argentina. Hoy tengo el gusto de compartir con ustedes los avances que hemos realizado. Para el Ministerio, la transformación digital es una pieza clave de fortalecimiento y legitimidad institucional, porque genera mecanismos que brindan una mayor apertura hacia la ciudadanía a través del diálogo y la participación, y promueve la aplicación de indicadores de desempeño para medir y mejorar las políticas públicas implementadas. A partir de la oportunidad de incorporar BIM en las áreas de gobierno relacionadas con la industria de la construcción, se comienza a delinear la estrategia BIM argentina, proponiendo como meta principal mejorar la eficiencia y calidad en la obra pública a través de la transformación digital del Estado. La estrategia se planificó en 4 líneas de acción con un desarrollo desde finales del año 2017 hasta el año 2025. Las metas y objetivos volcados se revisan y ajustan según vamos aprendiendo y avanzando, pero entre los puntos más relevantes podemos mencionar el creciente apoyo de diversas áreas públicas a través de un trabajo articulado entre el sector público, el privado y la academia para asegurar el crecimiento en la industria de la construcción. La consolidación de un equipo de implementación que inició en el año 2018, trabajando con documentos y casos prácticos y que continúa progresando con reconocimiento, tanto nacional como internacional. Por otro lado, la definición de roles, capacidades y habilidades de los equipos de trabajo como resultado de los talleres de transferencia junto a múltiples áreas de gestión pública. El fortalecimiento de los vínculos nacionales e internacionales que nos permiten seguir aprendiendo de otras experiencias para promover acciones colectivas. Y finalmente, las publicaciones que comenzamos a mediados del año 2019, que fueron un gran impulso para agilizar la transferencia metodológica. Sobre todo esto, vamos a desarrollar esta presentación. Para alcanzar la meta y llevar adelante las acciones, los principales objetivos de la estrategia son: por un lado, integrar BIM en los organismos públicos en sus diversas escalas. Garantizar el acceso igualitario a la tecnología para promover la competitividad. Articular al sector público con el privado para generar un trabajo colaborativo y empleo de calidad. También desarrollar la plataforma y Biblioteca Nacional BIM. Y estimular el desarrollo y aplicación de nuevas tecnologías, apoyando especialmente a las de uso libre y de código abierto. Si bien en Argentina no contamos aún con estándares normativos, desde el año 2018 el equipo de implementación del Ministerio ha desarrollado una serie de documentos para promover el intercambio y consenso. Los objetivos del equipo han sido desarrollar productos que regulen y establezcan una metodología de trabajo, estudiar alternativas de procesos, modelado y herramientas, y generar referencias para expandir el uso de BIM en las áreas públicas. En el camino hacia la estandarización se desarrollaron productos con una base teórico-práctica que integran la experiencia internacional al contexto argentino y valida la teoría a través de casos de estudios prácticos internos o con tutorías de pilotaje. Los productos desarrollados se enfocan en documentos que buscan conceptualizar la importancia de una implementación BIM. Por otro lado, documentos que explican paso a paso cómo llevar a cabo la implementación y herramientas que agilicen el proceso. Desde este QR podrán acceder a la información de manera libre y gratuita. Para sistematizar las implementaciones, se desarrolló una guía organizada en 6 etapas principales. Desde el relevamiento y diagnóstico del área hasta la planificación, el desarrollo, evaluación y seguimiento de la implementación. Esta guía de implementación es el documento que estructura la organización de todas las publicaciones. Toda esta producción crece y se optimiza fortaleciendo un lenguaje común, que servirá para estandarizar la información y asegurar su trazabilidad. Se han realizado alrededor de 10.000 descargas en menos de 2 años, y es lo que nos alienta a seguir trabajando y mejorando los productos. Los documentos que mencionamos se prueban y retroalimentan con proyectos del Ministerio y de otras áreas, mediante tutorías de pilotaje. Por otro lado, los talleres que llevamos adelante durante el año 2019 también nos ayudaron a promover el intercambio y optimizar la biblioteca. Entre los casos pilotos, destacamos el trabajo junto con el Ministerio de Obras Públicas de la provincia de San Juan, también con Vialidad Nacional y diferentes áreas de la Universidad de Buenos Aires, con quienes hemos desarrollado 8 proyectos de diversas escalas, complejidades, etapas y usos esperados. Por otro lado, los talleres y mesas de trabajo apoyados por el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, al que concurrieron 36 áreas, propiciaron el intercambio, el consenso y la voluntad de apoyo a la estrategia nacional. Con respecto a los avances sobre normativa, quienes lideraron el estudio y adaptación de la ISO 19650 es el Instituto Argentino de Normalización y Certificación. El IRAM es una asociación civil sin fines de lucro, técnica, independiente y representativa, que durante el año 2020 coordinó reuniones mensuales, revisiones y discusiones públicas para el desarrollo de la norma publicada el noviembre pasado. La norma argentina es una adopción idéntica a la ISO, que se aplica a todo el ciclo de vida de cualquier activo construido, incluida la planificación estratégica, el diseño inicial, la ingeniería, el desarrollo, la documentación y la construcción, las operaciones diarias, el mantenimiento, el reacondicionamiento, la reparación y el final de la vida útil. La norma proporciona recomendaciones para definir un marco de gestión de la información que incluye el intercambio, el registro, el control de versiones y la organización de todos los actores involucrados. Desde el Ministerio estamos trabajando para actualizar nuestras publicaciones con este avance. Áreas de acción. Sobre las actividades más importantes en las que estamos trabajando hoy podemos mencionar: la Dirección Nacional de Preinversión desarrolló más de 270 proyectos pilotos para más de 150 localidades en todo el país, vinculados principalmente a infraestructura primaria, parques industriales, movilidad o arquitectura pública. Los proyectos con metodología BIM, surgido tanto de licitaciones como desarrollados con capacidad interna, permitieron identificar la coherencia de información, la rápida detección de puntos débiles o no resueltos del proyecto, la transparencia en los cómputos, la posibilidad de incorporar información en el modelo como bases catastrales y topográficas del Instituto Geográfico Nacional, las que generaron una base para su posterior gestión y relación con futuros proyectos. Por otro lado, la agilidad en la colaboración con diferentes actores trabajando con información compleja, como el caso de excavaciones en un bajo autopista donde existía un centro clandestino de detención. En otro orden, la posibilidad de desarrollo de más de un proyecto de infraestructura por localidad, al permitir situarlos en un mismo modelo y verificar sus interferencias. A partir de estas experiencias se continúan ajustando procesos, documentos y herramientas. Otro punto a destacar es el relevamiento de la oferta académica BIM en universidades argentinas que iniciamos en el año 2020, lo cual nos permitirá contactarnos con docentes de todo el país para conocer los desafíos y oportunidades de los planes de estudio y realizar propuestas que integren BIM de manera transversal y multidisciplinar, para que los futuros profesionales tengan una formación más amplia, profunda e integradora, y brindar actualización a los graduados. Este relevamiento surge como una actividad vinculada con la definición de los roles, donde el foco de las capacidades y habilidades se vincula con las carreras universitarias, ya que en la Argentina la mayoría de las universidades son de acceso público. Con este mapa se busca potenciar el rol activo del Estado en las universidades para contar con más profesionales, mejor formados y más competitivos, en contraposición de roles formados con conocimientos particularizados. La rápida respuesta que obtuvimos de las 15 universidades de todo el país es el puntapié para seguir trabajando juntos. El tercer punto hace referencia a la continua colaboración con equipos nacionales e internacionales. A nivel nacional, desde el año 2017, el Ministerio promueve y coordina la Mesa BIM para la Gestión Pública, un espacio de articulación federal en el que participan diversos representantes del Estado, a nivel nacional, provincial, municipal, universidades públicas y otros organismos afines, con el objetivo de lograr que las ventajas del BIM se conozcan e institucionalicen en el ámbito de la gestión estatal para poder concretar más y mejores obras de infraestructura e impulsar su uso desde una perspectiva orientada a una industria de la construcción más abierta, con soberanía tecnológica, igualdad de oportunidades e integración regional. Durante el año 2020, en un contexto de pandemia, se realizó solo una reunión, pero esperamos retomar las actividades en los próximos meses. A nivel internacional y desde el año 2018, Argentina integra, junto con otros 7 países de la región, la red BIM de gobiernos latinoamericanos. Esta colaboración nos permite explorar las potenciales metas comunes entre las naciones e identificar las acciones regionales que podrían alinearse para agilizar la adopción de BIM. El desafío a futuro es desarrollar una estrategia nacional para fomentar el crecimiento de la industria de la construcción. Las capacidades del Estado nos permitirán brindar una rápida respuesta a la urgente necesidad de productividad, desarrollar acciones a mediano plazo para estandarizar los procesos de intercambio de información de la obra pública y acciones a largo plazo entre el sector público, el sector privado y la academia para potenciar la colaboración en la industria. Como conclusión, creemos que una estrategia BIM de alcance nacional se construirá con consenso, con coordinación y cooperación horizontal de los diversos conocimientos que cada espacio pueda brindar. Esto generará efectos multiplicadores y beneficiosos para todos, acelerando la transformación de las capacidades, creando una sinergia que favorezca el progreso comunitario. En ese camino es en el que estamos. Muchas gracias por su atención y que tengan una excelente jornada.
Thank you, Cecilia. The progress made in Argentina since 2017 and the start of the BIM program is incredibly impressive, especially the development of the Open Access National BIM Library. Thank you to all of our speakers for the informative presentations. It's clear that within the diversity of approaches across your countries, regions, and organizations, there are many similarities. At this time, I'd like to invite our speakers to turn on their cameras for the roundtable question and answer session. I'd like to start with Suel. Suel, you described the effort to create a common approach. Could you elaborate on what you see as the benefits to Europe and the globe for the adoption of digital standards, and how will it help the private and public sector to achieve?
Yeah, thanks, Elena, for this interesting question. I think we need to keep in mind that the ultimate goal for us is to support the delivery of better buildings and infrastructures. This is ultimately the goal, right? And especially when those infrastructures and buildings use public money, so the taxpayers' money. So we need to be very focused on that one. And this can be done, I think, by ensuring that the design is adapted to users' needs and expectations, and also by obtaining significant gains during exploitation of the infrastructures. And finally, to assess all the non-monetary gains that are related to that, for instance, reducing the environmental impact of the built environment. So we believe that this can be done by the use of data coming from design and also data coming, hot data coming from sensors in order to be able to be integrated within the overall process. And basically, it's combining these data coming from various sources that will add the value for that.
Thank you so much, Suel. Adding to that question, Taifat, Suel talked about the amount of data and collecting it from various sources. Can you talk about how the IDD strategy in Singapore addresses that issue?
Maybe I point you back earlier on to one of the graphs that I showed, that if you have low digitalization, you can actually lead to low productivity. So that is one of the reasons why I think we are putting effort to try to digitalize the built environment sector in Singapore. And to do that, I think there are a couple of strategies that we have put in place. First, you probably need to look at defining some kind of data standards where you can bring the industry on board the digitalization journey so that they are able to organize and structure the information in a certain manner that we are able to harness the information. So that's probably one of the first steps we need to do. The second one is probably you also need to put in place a digital platform to enable the different parties to collaborate and communicate among themselves. So these are the two broad strategies that we are looking at in Singapore to see what we can do to set the kind of common data environment and so put in place some kind of digital platform to enable more firms and project parties to come together and collaborate and integrate among themselves. So those are the two broad strategies that we are putting in place. And to so-called make sure that this thing happen in a seamless manner, one of the important things that we also need to do is how do we build up the competency and the capability of the personnel? Because you need to have enough personnel who are competent and have the right skill sets in order to support all this change. Because at the end of the day, I think what we are dealing with is basically change management. Yeah.
And just to add to that, what have been the challenges and learnings that Singapore has achieved from developing the skills of people?
Okay, so the first thing first is I think we're all aware that the construction industry is a very fragmented industry, and you have different discipline, different personnel at a different education level. But to get everybody on board the digitalization journey, you have to put in place educational programs or certification programs to bring everybody so-called up the ladder. So in order to do that, I think what we did was we tried to identify at the different stages, different processes, what are the kind of key digital skill sets that you need to have to enable them to do BIM modeling, to enable them to do better coordination, or to enable them to do better so-called collaboration in the projects. So we identify the kind of different skill sets that we need to have across the whole value chain. And then we'll map out the kind of competency program that we need to put in place. And for that to happen, I think we do a lot of engagement with the industry stakeholders, as well as the universities and polytechnics, because they are one of the key institutions to make sure that the students, when they graduate, they have the right skill sets to support the industry. So those are the kind of strategies that we put in place to make sure that we are able to target people that are studying, people that are about to graduate, and people who are already in industry. So we have to so-called tier the programs in a different manner to suit the different personnel at different stages. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, Cecilia, I'd like to ask, what is the public sector's role in leading the national BIM program in Argentina?
Para nosotros, el Estado argentino siempre tiene un rol muy presente, promoviendo el crecimiento y garantizando derechos e inclusión social. Trabajamos básicamente para garantizar el acceso a la salud, cultura, educación pública, gratuita y de calidad. Es lógico entonces que sea el sector público quien defina y lidere la estrategia BIM argentina, para garantizar que su acceso llegue a todos los sectores involucrados por igual. Me gustaría mencionar que en materia de ciencia y tecnología estamos logrando una visión unánime de todos los sectores políticos, para contribuir con el desarrollo de un Plan Nacional de Ciencia, Tecnología e Innovación, mediante el cual se busca desarrollar una nueva matriz productiva, generar empleos de calidad, promover la formación de profesionales e incrementar la infraestructura y el equipamiento. Una muestra de este cambio y de este camino de unidad fue la votación reciente en el Congreso Nacional de la nueva Ley de Financiamiento de dicho plan, que acaba de ser aprobada por unanimidad. De esta manera vamos generando políticas de Estado a mediano y largo plazo. El rol del sector público en el liderazgo del programa BIM nacional será activo y presente, garantizando el acceso igualitario a las herramientas de transformación digital y generando consensos que construyan políticas de Estado duraderas.
Fantastic, Cecilia. Thank you so much. Suel, similar question, but obviously you're working at an international level across the European Union. So how does the EU BIM Task Group take its leadership role in the development of various programs?
Yeah. It is a very interesting challenge, in fact, because as a collective organization, we need to deal with countries that have various maturity levels regarding BIM. So we need to be able to help the countries that are starting their BIM journey, and without discouraging the ones that are more advanced and that want to go further and faster. And it is always a big challenge for us in order to combine these two constraints. And this is done by making sure that we share best practices and making sure that all the dimensions regarding the BIM journey are addressed. And these are technical, obviously, but also related to training and accompanying measures, and also financial, as I said, regarding, for instance, this cost benefit analysis that we are doing, which helps everybody answer the very frequent question about how much does it cost, what are the benefits. And this is important. It is important, in fact, to have very reliable information about these cost and benefit analysis in order to be shared with various stakeholders in countries. And as I said, also, we need to manage various levels. We need to address things that are common for the European Union, and also that are specific to one country at the government level, but also to take into account input coming from various regions and local authorities. And these are very, diverse kind of approaches that we need to deal with, which is very, very interesting. But obviously, you need to be very specific when addressing this. And finally, I might add that the language issue is also a major issue, because obviously in the when we are dealing with governments on the central level, we can share information, across the European Union using English. But when we go towards local authorities, we need to be using their own language. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to be able to have their inputs and to put them on board regarding this journey.
Thank you, Suel. That's very interesting. And I'd like to ask Taifat a similar question, but what does, from Singapore's perspective, what does international collaboration look like in the public sector in Asia?
I suppose for international collaboration, what's important for us actually to share learning points. I think Sal earlier mentioned that each of us is actually at a different level of maturity in implementation. And for those who have started the journey earlier, I'm sure we have a lot of learning points that we can share with people, the challenges that we face, how we overcome it. So I think in terms of international collaboration, one of the benefit is really to have this sharing of learning points among the people in the various countries. And this is also through the sharing, I think we also can learn from one another. Some kind of good best practices that we can adopt as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn to Cecilia again. Cecilia, why has Argentina chosen BIM as a tool for change?
Para nosotros el BIM por sí mismo no resuelve los problemas de trazabilidad, transparencia, pero sin el BIM es muy difícil pensar en un proceso de transformación digital completo. Es por esto que apuntamos a integrar la base de datos BIM a un proceso macro que es el plan de transformación digital. Lo que nos permite BIM es el abordaje de temas de diversas escalas. A nivel proyectual, brinda mayor control, coherencia y velocidad, tanto en el proceso como en la obra final. A nivel estandarización, nos alienta a pensar de manera conjunta entre todos los sectores en un lenguaje común. Algo que para nosotros es todo un esfuerzo, porque todavía no trabajamos con estándares nacionales de clasificación y nombramiento. Esto también promueve el intercambio, tanto en equipos de trabajo nacionales como internacionales, lo que para nosotros tiene un valor enorme. En cuestiones de herramientas, queremos garantizar la soberanía tecnológica, potenciando programas de código abierto, públicos y gratuitos. Por último, pero no menos importante, el BIM nos permite repensar la manera en que estamos formando a futuros profesionales y cómo estamos actualizando a nuestros graduados.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Taifat, same question to you. Why has Singapore chosen BIM as a tool for change?
I suppose we want to give a stronger push to transform the way we build. And we recognize that in the built environment sector, I think there are a lot of interdependency among the different stakeholders along the value chain. And if we want to integrate and strengthen the entire value chain, I think in a holistic manner, we need to look at technologies such as BIM to help us facilitate better coordination among the project stakeholder. So that's one of the primary reasons that we choose to embrace on BIM technology, because we see it as a game changer to transform the way we build in terms of the power that it gives the different stakeholder, the power to do 3D visualization, and that itself enable a lot of collaboration among project parties that you are unable to find the same way using 2D drawings per se. And the other important thing is that through the BIM model, I think inherently there are also a lot of rich information that has been built up across the different stages. And that rich information, if it's structured and organized well, you can also harness on it to do downstream operation and maintenance. So it's basically the life cycle benefits that we see the BIM solution that can bring to this sector. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And Suhail, why has the European Union chosen BIM as a tool for change?
My feeling is that BIM has been used to initiate a change process in order to modernize a somehow reluctant construction sector. You know, this construction sector is not very open for changes and new technologies and so on and so forth. And I feel that BIM was used in order to push this change process and start it. And then once we got it going, it becomes easier to progress further step by step. And it makes, you know, lines change, and then it's easier to go forward. This is, I feel it was, I mean, it was used to ultimately modernize the construction sector, which was obviously needed. As Taifat reminded us, the productivity of the construction sector is lagging behind other industrial sectors, and this is a big problem. And we are facing major environmental and social challenges, and the construction sector needs to address these challenges. At the same time, I think we shouldn't underestimate the resistance for change, because whenever we bring this change, it also produces modifications in the value chain, and we shouldn't underestimate the fact that some stakeholders will be, you know, very frightened by that, and we need to explain and provide assistance to all stakeholders in order to be able to do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our speakers. At this point, we're going to close the Q&A session. And once again, thank you to our speakers who have provided great insight into the BIM initiatives in Singapore, the European Union, and Argentina. A special thank you to those joining from across the world. We've learned how governments are working with industry to encourage the adoption of BIM across the sector in the here and now. And we've heard that there are many similarities to delivering both public and private sector benefits within these programs. It's clear that there's great scope to learn from each other, to collaborate across borders, and to move towards a global digital built environment that delivers benefits for people and places. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event on the 10th. Thank you so much, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.